what's good enough in these 4 games over the next month? Will, they're sitting at 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you go 500, you get out of this next month and you have 5 wins, right? You're sitting at 5-3. One win away from getting Miss Peggy to that bowl game, which everybody has as the floor for this Buffaloes team. Is 2-2 acceptable over the next month with those 4 teams?
I think so because 5-3 puts you in a good place, and unless you fall apart down the stretch, you will go to a bowl game. The problem is, Josh, last year they were 4-2, and they were up 28-0 on Stanford. What did I tweet? Like a genius? I can't believe Coach Prime is 5-2. May or may not have hit the delete button. No, I don't delete tweets. People could probably go find it. But you see what I'm saying of like that 5th win last year was cursed.
Yeah.
Because we all marked it down, Sharpied it, boom, 5 wins. They didn't get to 5 the rest of the way. They finished on an ugly losing streak. So it does feel like maybe 5 is kind of the mental block for this team. And if 2-2 gets you there, that's great because everyone remembers what happened last year. And until you kick the narrative out that you can win in October and November and December, people are going to hold that against you. I guess not so much December in the college game, October and November. But if I'm Dion and I'm sitting there at 5-3 with 4 to go, okay, I can at least get one more win out of these boys.
Wow.
Knock on wood. The problem is if you only go 1-3 over the next 4, and then you're 4-4, oh baby. Thoughts of 2023 are going to come creeping back in your head.
Well, and it's look, UCF is going to be a tough one for sure. We know we're going to talk way more about that today and tomorrow. What they can do running the football against this Buffs defense is a tough test. Kansas State, first of all, you're going to come back home. You get to play at Folsom. That game doesn't look as like daunting as it did 2 weeks ago, right? Because of what Kansas State has put on tape over the last couple of weeks. Do I believe they're better than the Colorado Buffaloes right now? Yeah, I do. But I don't think it's a, giant, they don't have a chance in that game.
I mean, they lost to BYU 38-9.
Right. So that's what I mean. They're coming back
38-9.
down to earth. That's a more winnable game than it was.
Oh, definitely.
At Arizona, Arizona's not the same football team that we've seen a couple of years, and the Wildcats have kind of had the Buffs number on the football field the last handful of years, but that's a very winnable game. And then Cincinnati, you should probably win that game as well. There's the 2 I'm looking at, AZ and Cincinnati, and you might be able to pull one and get one over on K-State because you're getting it on your home field.
All right, so just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, you think the Buffs could be bowl eligible when we all go to bed on Saturday, October 26th?
I do.
They could be 6-2 that night, bowl eligible. And then let's be honest, those last 4 games, you're chasing a spot in the Big 12 championship game at that point because you would only have 1 loss in the conference. I mean, it's gone from, we made a bowl to, okay, boys,
UCF,
let's win out. Yeah, assuming they lose this weekend.
I was just trying to think of the team.
Let's win out and try to get our ticket to Dallas because then if you have the bowl game under your belt, you can take the deep breath and everything else does feel a little bit like gravy. And the best part about gravy is when you start chasing it, you start to believe a little bit more because the pressure's not on you.
Well, and look, I'm not calling that right now. I think it's a possibility for the Buffaloes to be there. And then you look at what's after that, those games that remain if they are at 6 wins, at Texas Tech, that's a tough ask. Hosting Utah, I know it's at Folsom. Utah is a damn good football team.
They're the real deal.
They're the real deal.
They could be in the playoff this year.
At Kansas, again, winnable, but you're going to KU, and that's a decent football team too.
Well, and remember where that game is. That game's in Arrowhead because
that's right.
KU Stadium is under construction. I actually think that helps the Buffs because the stadium won't be full. Mm-hmm. It's not on campus. It doesn't have the juice. It does feel a little more neutral site than being in Lawrence, but it's still a tough game.
And then at Oklahoma State, you get to host to finish your season, but that's not just a gimme either for that game by any means.
Definitely not.
That's why I looked at it. I split the 4 of here, winnable, and then it's going to get really tough down the stretch.
Well, that's why you don't want to be 5-3 when you go to bed on October 26th, because then 5-7 is a possibility.
That's right.
Because you could finish on a 4-game losing streak. So you got to get Arizona and Cincinnati. We all agree on that. And kind of like the Broncos, this is an interesting comparison. The next 2 weeks, the Buffs are supposed to lose. Uh-huh. Well, the Broncos were supposed to lose to the Bucs and Jets.
Great point.
And they got one. So if you're the Buffs, you look at this UCF Kansas State stretch. It's not a road trip, but it's 2 tough games. let's come out of this at 1-1. Let's be 4-2 and we'll be feeling good. Much like the Broncos, we said they just can't come back to Denver 0-4, and now we're getting greedy and we want them to come home at 2-2. But at least they got one on the road trip to salvage their season.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I wanted to ask you this question too, Will, about Prime. And I've been kicking it back and forth in my head and trying to land on my official final answer. The time in Boulder for Deion Sanders, all of last year, and we're, 4 games into this tenure of 2024. Do you think last year and this short stint in 2024, has that helped or hurt Deion's chances to get another coaching gig somewhere else?
I think it's helped because I think ADs are smart and ADs like money. And they've seen that in year 2, the focus is still totally on Coach Prime in Colorado. That they're still the biggest story in college football. You know, Ohio State's right there. Georgia's right there. Bama's right there. Obviously, Texas is right there with Arch Manning.
I would say those teams, they already make all the money.
They do. But what I'm saying is if, say, you're a middling SEC team. Okay? Say you're Kentucky.
Sure.
Say you're Vanderbilt. Say you're Arkansas. Don't we want to be the center of the college football world?
Okay.
And we would be if we hired Deion Sanders and Coach Prime. So that's what I'm saying is, like, I don't think, put it this way, I don't think he's leaving Boulder to go for another gig at this point because his sons won't be there. I think he either leaves Boulder because he wants to go watch his sons in the NFL, or he stays at Boulder and continues to build it like he has said on multiple occasions he will. Yeah. What is the point of Deion Sanders going to coach the Kentucky Wildcats with a bunch of kids he doesn't know? Does he really want to do that? That doesn't seem to me. I think it's more likely he retires.
That's fair, man.
I think it's more likely he retires than he goes and chases an SEC job.
Okay.
But I don't think he's hurt himself at all because if you're an SEC team that wants to get on the radar, you just throw in a heap of money at Coach Prime, and believe me, all the eyeballs will come.
Well, and I also wonder the other side of that. It's a two-way street, right? Would Prime want to go do that as you're talking about? What kind of control would – I like what you're saying about a middle-level SEC team. What kind of control would they give Prime? Does he get to tell the SID who he talks to and who he doesn't talk to? Does he get to say, no, your cameras aren't welcome. My cameras are welcome here? Like you know what I mean? I think
so.
You think so?
I think Deion Sanders is bigger than Vanderbilt football.
Well, Vanderbilt for sure.
I think he's bigger than Kentucky football. I think he's bigger than Arkansas football. He's Deion freaking Sanders.
Arkansas, you think?
I do.
Wow.
And I think Arkansas fans would sell their soul for that.
Yeah.
Because do you know what Arkansas is jealous of? Alabama and Georgia. And then they'd be able to be on the same level. The problem, I just don't think Deion has any interest in that. I don't think Coach Prime is looking for another gig. I think when he first got here, we all thought that. I think as we've gotten to know him more, we've realized this was always about Shedeur and Travis. It was always about elevating their draft stock. And Colorado was the avenue, the platform that gave it to him. Maybe he's fallen in love with Boulder and gives it another year or two. We'll see. I still think Deion's done after this year. That's been kind of my prediction on the record. But I don't think he'd be done to go coach somewhere else. I think he'd be done to go watch NFL football on Sundays and lay on a beach 4 days a week.
Yeah. What if it was the Cowboys that called?
That's an X-factor. That is a wild card in all of this.
Yeah.
Because that's the Dallas Cowboys. And obviously he had a lot of success there as a player. He has a great relationship with Jerry Jones. I just don't know why they gave Dak all that money. If I were them, I would have held out for Shedeur and told Dak to play this one out. I know contracts, as we know with Russell Wilson, you can get out of them.
Yeah.
And the Broncos took on a big dead cap hit, but they're going to be out of that thing by this time next year. So I would think the only way the Cowboys would happen is if it's a package deal. And by Jerry Jones throwing that bag at Dak, that does make things a little more complicated.